Own Way, the podcast with me, your host, Kori McClurg. Welcome to the Get Out of Your Own Way podcast. Today we are joined by none other than my beautiful husband, Barry Sherman. I'm Kori McClurg, if you aren't familiar. So I thought today Barry would be a great person to talk about a normal dude's kind of story to improving his health and just the whole journey and what that's been like for him, especially as a guy. So let's start out by just talking a little bit about how childhood was. Like what did you eat as a kid? How were you overweight? What was that whole thing like when you were a kid and into teenagehood and then early adulthood?
Sure. Thank you. Excited to be here for the inaugural with you. A normal dude. Well, not sure I felt like a normal dude growing up, but I did kind of grow up in that house in the 70s where TV dinners was like the choice of meals as kids for dinner. Of course, the Golden Arches and the drive-through, ruled the weekends. And of course, Lunchables and all those things started showing up in our diet. But I guess, I was an active kid who luckily had probably a good metabolism because I stayed fairly skinny in my early days as I was growing up. But I can't tell you I remember many vegetables ever visiting our house. We had a small garden in the backyard.
But that amounted to like a couple, 3 pea pods or something that you
got. A few tomatoes here and there,
Uh-huh.
but yeah. But no, it was my brother and I's favorite meal was meat and cheese. That was a block of cheddar, and
like ground beef in a skillet or something.
Yes, you called it. Mm-hmm. So, and think about it much, right? I was growing up. This was normal life. I didn't know another thing than that.
Right.
Even into my teenage years, Taco Bell, 12 for a buck.
Yeah.
The Big Mac that went through, middle school and into high school.
Do you remember going over to other people's houses and, were they basically eating the same thing, or, was anybody preparing anything healthier, or can you remember?
That's a great question. Pretty similar across the boards. I do remember a couple families that might have had a few different things, but it felt weird. It was like, I'm not sure I liked eating at their house.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that carried on all through high school. And luckily I was very athletic, but who knows what was going on in my body. The shape of my body stayed pretty good. I was very athletic. But things started to change in early adulthood. You get out of all those activities. You graduate from college, you get a day job, you're sitting in your chair for 8 hours a day. And the same thing, life doesn't slow down. You're eating fast food for lunch because you only have an hour. You're trying to make meals at night and you're busy. It was not what I saw. I mean, what society is what we were eating. It was fast food and processed foods.
Yeah. And when do you think you started noticing that you're like putting on weight or not feeling good, or both?
Definitely in my upper 20s. I went from, maybe 145 in high school, 165 in early 20s. And by the time I hit 30, I nearly have a 2 in front of my weight. And, at that point, and kids came along, Sam and Jesse came along. So all of a sudden, I'm finishing their meals for them. Mm-hmm. And again, these were chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
These were
processed
French fries.
Stuff. Yeah.
And the weight kept going on. My clothes had to be bigger. And, it was about the time where I was just not feeling as good. I'm eating Tums. I'm needing Pepto. I look back now and go,
Mm-hmm.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What about, I remember you talking about that you had like eczema and stuff really bad in
oh, I
those
did.
days.
Gosh,
Yeah. Talk about that a little
that
bit.
was like a balance. I think I contribute that to a variety of things. The lifestyle of being stressed,
Yeah.
low exercise, and likely just not eating things well. And I had it a lot. I had it on my feet. I had it on my body, my torso. I mean, I went through that for years and years
Yeah.
until I think I figured out there's all those things together
Yeah.
that
I
needed
mean,
to change.
stress is for sure a contributor, but those foods are super inflammatory.
Mm.
Yeah, it is really common for people to have like skin allergies and eczema and stuff. And then when they change their diet, it just like, goes away magically. So yeah, and stress is inflammatory also, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, combination of all that. So you're kind of you're gaining weight, you get this terrible eczema that's just miserable, and and nothing. Did you go on diets? I mean, did you think about that you wanted to address it, or what was your kind of mentality of that, or were you just kind of too busy with two little kids and not really?
priority was tough. I knew I had to start doing something because I didn't feel good. By my mid 30s, my father, at the age of 56, has a massive heart attack, heart disease. Um, he had open heart surgery. I'm starting to have a wake up call because I'm starting to all of a sudden look like my dad. And I'm going, am I on this path? So I think I started trying to think about what do I need to change? I thought I probably needed to exercise more. It was probably the last thing in my mind that I had to like really make a decision of what I put in my mouth.
Yeah, it was really just I need to get in shape. I need to.
Yeah, I got to go to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
but still in society, I mean, luckily I wasn't a huge milk drinker, but boy,
Mm-hmm.
did I love cheese.
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
I love chicken wings? Did I
yeah,
love,
yeah.
a lot of fried stuff? I obviously I think it's no secret between the two of us. It took me into my 40s, almost a decade and a half, going on 2 decades of going the wrong way and having that period in life where I look back and know that I no doubt put some stress on my body today that I'm no doubt trying to overcome now
Yeah, yeah.
and turn around.
Right.
Because as you know, as we were getting together, um, in my early to mid 40s, I'm at the doctor's getting my annual physical, and I recall coming to you and showing you some values that were darn embarrassing
Yeah.
and scary.
Yeah, cholesterol and triglycerides were pretty high.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were. Yeah, the nurse called me
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Your triglycerides are. You need to start exercising immediately,
Yeah.
like immediately, like now."
Yeah.
So there was changes that needed to occur, but I can tell you at that time there wasn't a clear roadmap for me.
Well, I think I remember the doctor saying you need to you we need to start you on statins.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I remember you being reluctant to that.
I was
Not.
reluctant to it. You were reluctant.
Yeah.
We're a team looking out for each other, looking for the best ways we can ensure a long, healthy life together. And I'm facing these numbers that were indicative of what I watched my father go through,
Right. Yeah.
indicative to many other people. So all of a sudden, I'm just looking at genetics, and I'm going, "There's a time for a change." And that
Yeah.
was nearly the pivot point. It wasn't
Yeah.
clearly it, but it was the start of
Yeah, it
going.
was a scary kind of moment, but I don't think at the time we necessarily knew what to do about it. We probably fumbled around with a few exercise routines or something in those days.
Yeah,
I think what really I think the pivot point really was this night that we were in the Washington D.C. area. We'd been at this conference.
mm-hmm.
Conferences are, just known for being these just sort of gluttonous events, right?
Yeah,
And so we had we'd been to dinner, eaten a bunch of nasty stuff. I'm sure steak and cocktails and all that. And then we're sitting there in bed. I'm sure it was hard for us to sleep because we had just eaten all this crap and flipping through um like the Netflix or whatever, and we come across these couple of movies. And I mean, describe that experience for you
Yeah.
of watching these movies and like what you thought about that.
Yeah. As you and I both know, and I certainly convey it to many people, that night was a pivot point. We're at the Gaylord in National Harbor. That night, I know I had a big tomahawk steak, and
Probably
but
had heartburn.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
just I can almost feel it today. But we get in bed, we can't even sleep because we're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You don't sleep well, and we start flipping along TV, and you know, fat,
Sick and nearly
sick,
dead.
yes,
Yeah.
came on, and we
Yeah.
watched that, and it was like jolting on wow. And then we watched Forks Over Knives,
Yeah.
and they woke me up more than ever. A variety of things woke me up. It started me thinking about not only myself but people in my life and where they're at. So I watched my father all of a sudden decline, and now he needs help. I had my mother's health decline in the same fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about my loved ones, I'm thinking about you, and I'm going, there's something's got to change, and particularly for me because I'm not feeling good.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, it's so funny. I remember so clearly being at that conference and feeling so fat. Like, I was sure I was the heaviest I'd been in a while
Yeah.
then. But so talk to me about when you were watching the movies. I mean, how did it seem real? Did it seem like you could, like, real people could do this? I mean, or how did you
Well,
feel about it?
yeah, it was probably the first time when I started seeing it that there is a movement. There are people out there that have been and are focused on their health, and primarily about what they're eating. Everything from watching salt, fats,
Mm.
on and on. And you don't find that society. Your doctor
Yeah.
didn't talk to me about it.
Right, exactly. I mean, the just for maybe people who haven't seen it, like particularly Forks Over Knives was I mean, it's very, it kind of walks you through all of the science and the research that's been done um around how nutrition impacts our health. And it particularly talks about a couple of researchers, um, T. Colin Campbell, who had done, well, the China study, which subsequently turned into a book also,
Yeah.
and how rural China, that they just don't have things, or didn't. Right now they're getting more Western influence, but they didn't have heart disease. Cancer was almost non-existent. And then Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who literally was treating patients with diet. I mean, he was reversing people's, and still to
Heart
this
disease,
day,
yep.
yeah, reversing people's heart disease with diet. And
Yeah.
and it was nothing cosmic. It's
basics.
eating, yeah, eat vegetables, right? Stop, eat vegetables and fruits and beans and grains, and stop eating meat, and stop with the dairy and that stuff. And he's just, I mean, people think this is a miracle, right? Because they thought they had this death sentence. They'd had surgical interventions and stuff, and here they magically reverse it. I mean, they even talked about diabetes. People
Right.
reverse their diabetes,
Yep.
with diet.
Turning on and off cancer.
Yeah, that was part of Colin Campbell's research. You could see where cancer was turned off and on. So yeah, it was pretty, like, holy crap. I mean, it was just very, just shocking and eye opening. And like you said, your doctor certainly didn't say anything about that whenever you went in and had, triglycerides and cholesterol through the roof. I mean,
no, I started I think we left that hotel I, and we didn't make, like, it wasn't night and day, but the movement started for us.
Yeah.
We started trying to get more involved in things. What
More
truly did it,
educated.
as soon as you started making a commitment to yourself, like we did for each other, I started feeling better. I right away said, okay, if I'm going to give this a shot, I got to take some steps to kind of commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months later, we're cutting things out. That year, steak was cut out of my life. Chicken was cut out of my life.
Yeah. We
All the way up
still
to,
we still had days where we,
oh yeah,
like
it was tough.
yeah, where we just kind of threw up our hands and we're like, screw it, we're having pizza tonight, or
Yeah.
or
Well, cheese was my
yeah.
really tough
Yeah.
transition piece.
Yeah.
And um, feeling better started giving me the light. And then the education for us went forward, right? We started going to more conferences, listening to people. The books you're just referencing, for me, I didn't have time to sit there and read them for hours, but I did audios.
Mm-hmm.
And it just helped me believe more. And then when
Yeah.
I started shedding the weight and feeling better, no
Yeah.
more heartburn,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, everything's going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Now, it's not like you just wave the magic wand and all of a sudden I'm there. It took us a lot of work
Yeah.
inside
Yeah.
our house.
Yeah, we just started, we stopped buying things, switching things out, and but like you said, we went to some events. I think that helped. I mean, I think the first event we went to was one that Rip Esselstyn had put on.
Yeah.
It was a relatively small event, as I recall, um, but and because it was like 10 years ago, some people who are kind of really big thought leaders in kind of this whole diet as medicine sort of movement. Um, they're 10 years down the road. People like Rich Roll, he spoke at that event,
Yeah.
and now he's got this super successful podcast and stuff. But yeah, we like continue to try to get educated and go to these things where we would learn more and meet people
It was
that
helpful.
yeah.
It was like being around it
Mm-hmm.
because that wasn't normal for us.
Right.
So we had to kind of reach out for some of that. With all due respect to everyone else that was in our lives, if we're going to be trying to be consistent in this, we needed some of that support that were in smaller venues and other groups. But yeah,
What I mean through that, um through I'll say just over these last 10 years, talk a little bit about how you felt, certainly some of those, well, really all of those foods um have an addictive quality, so just trying to get off them is difficult. But talk a little bit about kind of some of the social things that you felt like maybe were difficult with either work people or family or any
yeah.
of that kind of.
Yeah, well, it was kind of all the above. We're continuing to raise two kids that we have to decide how we're going to implement it in their life and try to get them to kind of thinking this way, whether still been raised in a fashion like we were. But, we're at holiday events where, you're normally having turkey and ham at holidays. And so it was tough to make a change because for a bit you felt like you didn't fit in, or you had to kind of go along. And it took me maybe a little bit longer than you did, but I started seeing that it was okay to say, I'm just going to eat this and this, or I'll bring this. And I was probably thankful afterwards because, again, the
You didn't feel like crap. Yeah.
outcome of how I physically felt,
Yeah.
has been good. Work, I mean, it's like these conferences I go to or prearranged meals where you have three things to choose from, and none of them for a
Right.
long time were options. And so
Yeah.
you would sit there and pick at a couple, asparagus or green beans.
Yeah. Maybe a garden salad or something they'd have. Yeah.
So it's we're more strategic on where we go and how we set that stuff up for ourselves and how we share that with the loved ones around us. And so that's just taken some time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worked out. I think society has also been tracking a little bit more, where there's
Yeah.
more options for us
Hmm.
out there
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
certain locations.
How, like, how do you feel about, anything you're still struggling with, anything you still want to implement? Like,
Yeah. As you know, we're doing like medical checkups, once a year. I'm probably wanting to increase that a little bit so I can see some fluctuation, because as life goes on, we'll go and say, hey, we still want to live, so to speak. Well, what does that mean? We want to travel, we want to be around loved ones, we want to stay active, but I am struggling on a few fronts still, and I think you know it, and I can admit it to you again. I still struggle with the desire for seafood. It's probably one of my last pieces. I've given up all dairy, uh, I mean, steaks, hamburgers, chicken, pork. Those are there, but this is one area that I need to continue to focus on and get support. Obviously, that's why I'm here with you here too. Not only as your partner, but
yeah.
also to kind of challenge myself even more
Hmm.
to get there.
What do you think is your biggest struggle with eliminating that last bit? Well, let's talk about fish. I think I want to talk a little bit more about maybe processed food too, but fish in particular, what do you think is drawing you there? Just like,
Well, as I'm starting to track it, it's when I'm out of the norm of what we're doing. I
mm,
might be traveling or on a vacation, and the options are there. Like today, we've done an incredible job to put options in our home or locations to allow me to stay. And then I get this weakness that I got to work on.
mm-hmm,
And I'll call it a weakness just because, again, I don't probably feel as good as I normally would when I don't. I might
mm-hmm,
love the flavor, but it's some alternatives, and I got to keep working the mindset.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. So, and you like, with your cholesterol numbers and stuff, like there's still a little bit to go there. And so one, as Dr. Esselson says, 150 is like the magic number to be below for you to be heart attack proof. I think your last cholesterol was like 160 ish.
yeah,
Um, and I think that that's probably a triple. Yeah, some fish probably is creating some challenge there. But also just higher fat diet, like oils can also contribute
yeah.
to that higher cholesterol number.
Yeah.
How have you felt about that journey or any that difficulty in getting that last little bit?
It can be tough,
Yeah.
as you know. Uh, it it's sometimes that cherry on top, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I got everything good, and then it's a little. Oh, I need a little oil on that, or I
Yeah.
need a little of this. And you're right, my numbers have come down, which you look at paper and you go, whoo. But is it where it really should be if I'm looking to really extend my life and feel good during those years and do some of the things that we're working to do today.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think at the age of 57 here that I'm running half marathon trail races. I certainly wouldn't have thought I was doing it 15 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Um,
Yeah, I think the point is you've there's been a ton of improvement for sure. Like we've literally seen your numbers come down dramatically and you're doing um so many more active things that you weren't doing before. Your weight's come down and you're feeling so much better. And it's like it's dose dependent, right? Like the more we do to improve, um, the more we embrace the process, the more we see the results of it, right? So it's not like a black or white kind of thing.
yeah, you're spot on. And as you age a little bit more, and for me, who's getting closer to a 6 in the front of his age, I probably in my mind, I continue to tell myself that I need to take myself serious in those things if I really want to avoid some of those challenges I've watched other family members, friends have.
Yeah.
So it's certainly a choice I'm making.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how much it means for me that we're doing it together. It's easier. I mean, without any doubt. And I rely on you, and I think we really do that together. So, but at the end of the day, I've got to make some of the decisions.
Mm-hmm. What if you, and maybe you already talked to people, some of your colleagues and stuff about this, but what would you tell somebody who's thinking about making changes? They know they need to lose weight. They know they need to get their cholesterol down. Maybe they have something, like diabetes. They've already had some diagnosis. Like, what would you tell them to help them get out of their own way?
Well, I've probably refined what I've conveyed before. Before we're buying some of these books and handing them to family members, and we're trying to get them to read and somewhat be influenced not by just what we're saying, but like, wow, we might have found something that we never have been exposed to in our life that's going to be, a game changer for us. And so I don't know if I have all the words. A little bit of leading by example and exposing to people to the benefits of it by seeing what they're doing or exposing them to other
you're saying
groups.
you just try to lead by example. You're
I'm
not
trying to now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about talk to the person though that maybe they're ready for a change. Like what would you say to them? Like they're open to the idea that they would be willing to make some changes.
Well, first of all, you got to work to get most of the way there by yourself. Got to make some commitments deep inside and say, this is what I want. Because either I'm feeling like I'm not moving, I physically have problems. And then get into something. I mean, get into your group core.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, there is so much support out there that, you can get really focused by yourself, but when you have a group around you,
yeah,
either by a good leader or other people that are in the same boat, it's like a lot of things in life. Get some partners, get some friends, get other people that are in the same movement. Certainly give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's going to have a different journey.
Yeah,
some may kick in right away. Some's going to take longer.
But you don't know until you try.
Yeah, and that turn didn't take long.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying everyone react the same. For us, that's what got me to go, wow, I want to continue to keep trying to carve away at this.
Yeah. What I just, as you were talking there, it made me think about this colleague that you have in the industry. We won't say his name. It's okay. That just suffered. I mean, he's been doing all of he's a sales guy. So he's been doing all the whining and dining and we saw it in him. He was overweight. We were concerned about him. I think he even at one point had lost some weight, maybe doing like paleo, keto, whatever. But he just had a massive heart attack like 2 weeks ago, and he's in the hospital. You end up with open heart surgery, got some bypasses sewn in. What do you think that kind of thing, have you seen it like amongst the other people in the industry? Have you seen that be kind of like a holy crap kind of
that moment where it's a waker upper?
Yeah.
I think in certain groups it certainly is. I mean, either you've watched a friend go through it, okay, and it can be a lot of different sicknesses, or you've watched your parents, or a sibling, and days when you're in the hospital for a long time watching that. For me, it was another indicator. As you know, we went through both of that with my parents. That is another indicator that I do not want to spend much time here.
Yeah.
And so you're right. We're wishing our our good friend a recovery, and ideally recovery that will involve some type of lifestyle change that can really prolong his particular life. And so thinking of him, but um, yeah, I I think for all of us, these are moments in life, and at different ages. If I could go back, and and of course, Sam and Jess get to hear it from us all the time. They get to see it. I think we've probably lightened up a little bit. I'm quite proud of the two of them that they've made some adjustments, and they continue to, and they feel extremely healthy. So I hats off to them. I want them to continue to think about that in their future.
Yeah.
And but if I could speak to the younger, group that might be watching these, or they could be a part of what you're seeing, don't wait until your mid 40s. You got a lot of catch up.
Yeah.
How do you make it a lifestyle when you're younger?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's right. Yeah. If only we knew then what we know now, kind of thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that change out there that we're meeting more and more younger people.
Yeah, that they're concerned about their health. They're concerned about other, impacts like the environment and that kind of thing that that our dietary choices have on beyond ourselves, and they impact, the rest of our environment. What I guess, is there any tidbits or words of wisdom, or even your favorite, what's your favorite thing to eat now?
That's a good question. I do think that changes a bit, and I'm glad for that, because the diversity in what I can eat that is I'll say plant-based, and it's healthy. There are some cheeses that I can eat now that are good.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I've fallen in love with veggies again. It's just you get them cooked right.
Yeah.
And you can season them with so many different things.
Yeah.
And so I would challenge everyone to challenge their palate.
Yeah.
And try it for a bit. Get involved.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'd point people.
Fantastic. Well, I think you have spread shared your experience. I think that's really helpful, and shared some great words of wisdom. So I thoroughly appreciate you. Doing this.
As your partner and husband, I can't tell you how proud I am of you. And although this might be the first of many to come, I can't wait to see the impact of what you're doing, of what it's going to bring to people, and how you're going to shape many lives ahead of you. So here to support you, but go Core.
Thanks, babe.
Okay. Love you.
All right. Love you.